Hey, my cool kids. This video comes to you in 4 parts. Yes, I just made 3 simultaneous YouTuber references. Part 1, this is our 200th video, which is pretty cool if you ask me. That's pretty much all I got for that part. Part 2, this is kind of a side note to my traditions video, which was the first video that I made. Link in the doobly-doo. So at this soup kitchen where I volunteer, whenever we clear the plates, we always dump the food into this special container that has a plastic bag in it, and then dump like the plastic plates into the trash can. But at the end of the night, we just take that bag, tie it up, and throw it in with the rest of the trash. And I was like, why do we do this? Well, apparently, way back before I even volunteered there, like years ago, this guy used to take that home and put it in his compost pile. Then after a while, his compost pile started growing too much stuff, and he was like, alright, I'm not going to take it home anymore. Yet we continue to do that, and it doesn't really change anything. It just goes in the regular trash in the end of the night anyway. And if we don't have a plastic bag to put in that little container, we're a little upset that we have to put the food in with the rest of the trash. Part 3, now we're actually getting to the question. The question today is, do we have an absolute duty to God or an absolute duty to ethics or the law? Now, I think most of you, the answer to this is probably obvious. We have an absolute duty to God. But why is that? And naturally, I'm going to be taking this from a quote from Soren Kierkegaard. I'm sorry. Really. But, just, anyway. Now, to understand what this quote means, you're going to need a little background. The universal means ethics, or the law that applies to everyone, like don't lie, don't do this, don't do that. The laws that God has given. And the absolute is God. So, keep that in mind. This quote is from Fear and Trembling. It says, then faith's paradox is this, that the single individual is higher than the universal. That the single individual determines his relation to the universal through his relationship to the absolute. Not his relationship to the absolute through his relationship to the universal. So essentially, how we interact with the law or with the universal is by our relationship with God or through the absolute. But what does this mean? I think that what this means is that we have to live by the Spirit and live by our relationship to God. Because following the rules or doing what is right is not the same thing as being in a relationship before God and with God. What the Pharisees did was follow tradition or follow the law or the universal, and by the universal they had a relationship with the absolute. But the relationship with God had no deeper meaning to it. It had no inwardness because it was based entirely upon the universal or the law. They just did what they thought was right. But the problem is that what they thought was right had no meaning behind it because they had no relationship with God. By lacking a relationship with the absolute, the universal lost its meaning and had no purpose. The purpose of the law and the meaning of the law rests in its relationship to God and in our relationship with God. Our relationship with God is more important than our relationship with the law, and our relationship with the law is defined by our relationship with God. Part 4. This is a comment to Wednesday's video, not yesterday, but a week from yesterday, which was about goodness. So I read something today from C.S. Lewis's Miracles that reminded me exactly what you said about goodness being this story of creation, fall, and resurrection. And he writes, talking of miracles, they are not exceptions, however rarely they occur. Not irrelevancies. They are precisely those chapters in this great story on which the plot turns. Death and resurrection are what the story is about, and had we but eyes to see it, this has been hinted on every page. And I don't think it's any coincidence that he talks about Dorothy Sayers' book, The Mind of the Maker, in that same chapter. No, I just wanted to put that little comment. And Wednesday's video about goodness will be in the doobly-doo.